Hello everybody and welcome to my channel and to my playlist Sewing Made Easy. Maybe you know the feeling. You have planned to sew something new for yourself, a nice blouse, a dress or even a jacket, and you keep thinking, actually there's something missing. I like to make this piece specially. It's supposed to have a highlight somewhere on it, and that's what this video today is all about. Because I want to give you an idea what you can use, what you can do to change something on your new sewing project that will make it special. So do you feel like watching? Then you gotta stay on tune right now, because I like to show you what I got planned to do. All right, here we go. So I would like to show you how to do some nice loops for a sleeve. This sleeve could be anywhere on a blouse, on a dress or on a jacket. Cut your sleeve exactly as you would normally be doing this long sleeve. I added a seam for the bottom of 3 centimeters. But now I have to make some marks to where I want my loop to start, where I will stitch it on. So I measured from the cutting bottom up 7 centimeters, and I will make myself a little mark by cutting a little bit in on both sides, as you can see right here. Exactly in the position where I just put my marks, I measure across. As you can see, there I got 25 centimeters. But the parts that I will cut for the loop now have to be a little bit longer. Reason is we need some width later on when it will fold around the arm. Therefore, I will cut my parts approximately 1 to 2 centimeters or just a little bit less than 1 inch longer. And now you must make the decision if you will cut it from the same material and maybe for the inside use a lining, or as well you can also use the same material that you do have anyway. But you cut them the same size as the main material for the outside. Then you have to think which width should be the finished width for your loop for the sleeve. In my case, I want it to be finished approximately 5 centimeters. That means my width that I'm cutting here is 7 centimeters, because as you know, 1 centimeter seam allowance will be on every side. And for the little loop needed, which will go across the big one later on, I cut myself one long stripe of 5 centimeter width and 20 centimeter length, because out of those 20 centimeters, I will make both of the loops for both sleeves. And as I have a jersey material here, I do not need to go with the zigzag or the overlock along the edges first. That's not necessary to do, because my next job now is to take my piping and stitch it on all the sides of my loops. And of course, in your case, you do not need to take a contrast piping. You can take any kind of piping from your same material that you're using anyway, or also do this particular loop totally without a piping. That is all your decision, and whatever you like to do with your particular sleeves here. As you can see, if you add some of the same material, this can have just the same beautiful kind of look as I do here with the contrast one. So after cutting, our first job now is to add our piping along all the long edges. I went onto my Janome sewing machine now, and you can see here I put as a foot my zipper foot on, and my needle position is on the left side. My piping is a prefabricated one with a very thin cordle inside, and because of that my edges are really straight, especially if I did my cutting correctly. So the sewing now is also very easy, because all I do is have my foot or my needle running exactly on the seam, on the piping, and I put everything exactly edge on edge, and therefore I know I have the guarantee that the width of my finished loop will be exact the same width all the way along. So that is exactly what I have to do now on all the long sides from my two main parts, which goes on one on every sleeve. And as you can see on both sides, as I mentioned. And of course, I also have to put my piping, if I want it, on my one long loop, which will hold together the main one then in the middle. And when I have a job like this, I don't cut my piping off to the length of the stripes first. I just add them all onto each other, which also makes the sewing for a household sewing machine much easier if it can just continue instead of starting each time new again. After I prepared all my stripes with my piping, I now take my lining, or in case if you have the same material, doesn't matter, you put it right side on right side. Now turn the piece over, and now you can see your first seam very well, and all you have to do with your zipper foot, go exactly on top of that seam and stitch all the way through, and now of course on both sides of your long piece that you got right here. Do this to both of your loop parts for the two sleeves. And now all you have to do is turn this one inside out so you can see your finished work practically. Then after turning, you can just iron it flat if you wish. Or as I will do and show you, I like to stitch along the edges because it will lie so much better even after you maybe washed your blouse or your dress. That is why I prefer to really stitch it down just about a millimeter away from the edge. So you ribble it out and leave the piping showing as much as you want, as also on this overstitching, you can still regulate this to have it very evenly all the way along the edge. And when I get to the end here, I might as well stitch across right away because then my side is held already. And I go down the other side, do exactly the same, nicely 1 millimeter stitched along that edge, and also here I close that side. And of course I do that to both parts before I continue with my little loop, which goes over the top then over the big one. And with my little loop, you can see I didn't extra add a lining to it because that's absolutely not necessary, because it was also get maybe a little bit too thick. But I do exactly the same what I've done to the big loops. I'll stitch a 1 millimeter stitch along the whole edge, go across to hold my ends there, and stitch down that way again. That means then everything is prepared to now put all the parts together. First, of course, I also gonna once iron over them to make them nice and flat. So here we are, all finished nice and flat ironed for both of the sleeves, exactly as I wanted them. And my little loops, as I mentioned before, I cut them on 10 centimeters length each. I had a 20 centimeter stripe length before, as you maybe remember. This 10 centimeters I stitched together 1 centimeter seam, as I usually have on all my seams added. And now I fold my seam apart so it doesn't get too thick, and I stitch once with my sewing machine just along the edges where the seam is, so they cannot fall together anymore, and I pull them over my big part, and if I wish I can put a little hand stitch at the back to hold it in position. And also you can see on both of my sleeves, now before I add the loops, I already finished the seams off, because that is so important. Because of that, if you do the seam first on your two sleeves, now it's very easy and very exact to get the right height to add your loop in the exact position. And now you understand why I made them a little bit longer, because in the moment you roll it over your arm, you see the outside piece, the loop piece, will need more length. With these parts, I go back to my sewing machine now. Then I stitch one side of my loop on one of the sides of the sleeves down. Then have exactly a look how much width do I need to push in, and firmly stitch down the other side. And then all I have to do is close my sleeve and it is finished. And that was really all I had to do to create these really nice looking loops for my sleeves. And within, I give it a total different look, as if the sleeve would just be without this. So if you like this idea of how to do this for some sleeves, I like to mention again, this is not only to be done maybe on a dress or on a blouse. It is also very, very nice to add it onto a coat or a jacket. And you must also admit, it's definitely not a difficult job, or it's also not a job that takes a long time. It's done quite fast with a really big effect. Now all I can say is I hope that you enjoyed and you like my video I done here for you. And as always, I would like to say I'm looking forward to read some comments from you from all over the world, wherever you're writing me from. That means I'm at the end, and I'd like to say goodbye to you. Stay healthy, stay with me in my channel, and I promise I will come back to you again with some nice English videos for you in the future. Thank you so much. Bye.